giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We live on YouTube. We on Facebook. And, of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Today, we are diving into the state of the unit. Defensive tackles picking it right back up. We're picking it right back up. I'm going to talk to you about why I think this change is what's really going to make this unit or this defense truly elite. Plus, in the roundup, we got some contract talk, updates on, or rumors, I should say, rumors on specific contracts revolving these Dallas Cowboys. But my goodness, it feels so good to be back, Bomb Squad. What's goody?
Bomb Squad!
What's happening out there, man? Look, I absolutely enjoyed the break. I want to say two things about having this break. I had a chance for really the first time since I've done this to just be with the fam, be with my family, my boys, my lady, and just live in that and kind of remove myself a little bit from Dallas Cowboys talk. I couldn't completely get away from it. I'm watching all my content brothers and sisters, right? I'm watching Law and Boss and those guys and the final word. They're all doing fantastic work. Tuck, Rome, everybody continuing, even Vach putting out the videos, everybody continuing to do their thing. And that's why I think this community is so damn strong, because we can go so many different places, right? But then as I'm getting closer and I'm waking up and I'm like, man, I kind of missed the Bomb Squad a little bit.
Bomb Squad!
I ain't gonna lie. I miss the Bomb Squad. I miss the back and forth, the banter, the camaraderie, the family atmosphere we have, and what makes this morning show special, man. So I'm excited to be back. And like I said, today we're going to be talking Dallas Cowboys defensive tackles heading into training camp and into the season, really, because most of these guys will probably be here, right? Most of them will probably be here, but there might be one or two of them dudes that might not be too. So we'll get into all that. How was the break? Really wasn't a break, right, for y'all, but how was this week off for you guys, right? I see somebody in the chat already brought up the Dunk the Clown. Yeah, okay, look. Back in the 90s, early 90s, that era was probably one of the worst eras for WWF, but it had a couple guys in there I liked, and I liked Doink, so I had to rock the Doink today. But I hope the break wasn't too bad for y'all. We're back, we're live, and I think it'll be a good show. Again, if you want to call in, as we always do, you can. 351-999-3787 is the call-in line. We'll talk. If you want to talk about the DeAndre Hopkins thing, D-Hop went to the Titans. Shout out to our parent company, A to Z Sports Nashville. They got D-Hop. There's the ESPN Jeremy Fowler, I think, or something like that. They dropped a top 10 quarterback list. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Wednesday. I'm on Monday, Wednesday, Friday this week. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. But there's a lot to get into when you miss a week. There's so many things that come up. Salute to Scotty. Scotty said he just started a new job, man. So salute to you, Mr. Scotty. I hope everything goes well with that. All right. Enough about me, enough of the intro. Let's get into this Cowboys talk. That's exactly why you guys are here. So let's get into the roundup.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It is time for...
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Oh, they do it! Hey, oh, they do it!
Hey, yo. Been a minute since I said that. So today, believe it or not, if you haven't really been listening out there in these rumor streets, is the deadline for the Cowboys to get a deal done for one Tony Pollard. Now, yesterday, I believe like midday, maybe later in the day, reports came out that the Cowboys are unlikely to do a deal with Tony Pollard. Now, for us, if you've been on this show, if you've been listening to a lot of Cowboys creators, content creators, or really .com, I don't think anyone expected the Cowboys to do a long-term deal with Tony Pollard, right? The running back position, the value has went down, so it won't be a massive contract like it was for an Ezekiel Elliott. However, I don't believe the Cowboys are in the market for really paying running backs like that right now. It doesn't help that TP came off the injury, right? But everything is looking good for him injury-wise. Nonetheless, they have till 3 p.m. Central to come down with the deal. Can we play a bit of a hypothetical game here? Let's say, hypothetically speaking, things change. Because that was a report. The report was, unless something changes, there will be no deal. If they were to sign TP to a long-term deal, what would you want that deal to look like? I can definitely listen to you explain why you would want him on a 3-year deal, 4-year deal with a 2-year out. I can listen to it. But if we're talking about long-term contracts in 4 or 5 years, and it's going to hit your cap 14, 15 plus million, those days should be over for the Cowboys and for most of the league, honestly, in my opinion. I wouldn't want it to be anywhere near that. But if you're talking about a 3 or 4 year deal, you can get out of it after 2. Your cap doesn't really get affected beyond, 8 to 9, at tops 10 million. I could live with that for a few more years until they figure out the position if they wanted to do that. But I can also live with them just taking a running back every year. I mean, I'm not going to fake the funk to you. If he doesn't sign a long-term deal, I would not be upset about it. I do hope that the young man gets his bag, though, because he's done nothing but play for peanuts, and every time he's come in, he's performed. He's been your best back, in my opinion, for the last 2 years. So I hope he gets his bag. If it's not with the Cowboys, it's with someone else. But I think a huge breakout year is coming for Tony Pollard, Cowboys Nation. I do. Toxic said, can you name me one running back extension our front office has done well? That's fair. You could also argue just around the league, running back extensions haven't fared too greatly. Now, Aaron Jones is still doing well. Dalvin Cook played well, but he got cut. But if you look at all the guys that have gotten those extensions, a good handful of those dudes either aren't with the team anymore or starting to see their decline, including one Ezekiel Elliott, right? You've got Derrick Henry, who's lived up to his, but you can see the wear and tear starting to pile up on Derrick Henry, which is wild when you go back and look. He had 1,500 yards last year. Unbelievable. I'm seeing some 3 years, 15, 3 years, 13. Yeah. So I don't think that'll get it done, but I hear y'all. $5 million per. Two Broke said nothing more than 3, 4 at 7 to 8. And that's kind of why I wanted to get him a, who was it? Austin Eckler type of deal last year. I think we all sensed TP was about to take over this backfield. But it's kind of hard to pay Pollard last year with Ezekiel Elliott still on the team, his contract and whatnot. So I think they elected to keep going, and which wasn't a terrible decision, because you got a chance to see TP featured more. And I think you can definitely tell that he can be a number one back for you. Doesn't mean he needs to be a workhorse, but he definitely can be a number one back for you. So Tony Pollard, deadline is today for the deal. Reports are they don't expect it to happen. On the contrary, though, per SI.com, the Cowboys and my cousin Terence Steele are in negotiations for a long-term deal. And here's the quote, that they would like to get a Cowboy for life type of deal. The last Cowboy for life deal was what, Tyron? Now I don't expect Terence Steele's contract to be 10 years, $100-something million. But Cowboys Nation, I might be on an island here with a few of y'all, but I'm all for paying Terence Steele on a long-term deal, because you know what that's going to do? It might look expensive early on, but if this thing stretches 6-7 years, by the time you hit that third and fourth year, his value is going to be so great. We're going to be talking about Terence Steele's contract as one of the most valuable contracts in the entire National Football League. In the same way we've been doing it with Tyron Smith when he was playing and healthy, right? Tyron Smith signed that lifetime deal back in 2014 or something, 15, whatever it was. And he was playing on a cheap contract forever. And I think that's the type of deal they're looking for a Terence Steele. An undrafted free agent, playing on $4 million right now, coming off of the ACL injury, but looks to be ahead of schedule. And if he is ahead of schedule, and he indeed does start the season, which I anticipate he will, this is what the potential starting offensive line could and should be to start the season, as long as Tyron Smith doesn't get hurt. Or anybody for that matter. Left tackle Tyron. Left guard Tyler Smith. Center, Pro Bowl Tyler Biadasz. Right guard, future Hall of Famer Zach Martin. And then right tackle Terence Steele. This group right here played 0 games together in 2022. 0. And when you're talking about pure health, just if this team is healthy, this offensive line is healthy, you can, yes, argue this is a top 10 offensive line in the league, which is why I say, yeah, if these dudes are healthy, absolutely you line this line up and you play, you should be playing well. Like we've talked about over the last number of months. When it comes to Tyron, likely health is not happening, right? And then you're moving Tyler out, and now we're playing musical chairs. You just hope it doesn't affect this offensive line that much. You hope it's just a one-off. Last year, you saw Terrence go down, Tyler Biadasz go down, and Tyron Smith go down. Since Mike McCarthy has been here, that's pretty much all he's seen up front is a bunch of injuries. So I'm hoping we can buck that trend and the Cowboys can at least see some solid health up front heading into the playoffs, because last year, y'all, Terence Steele wasn't available. If you guys remember, Tyler Biadasz, he missed the last game of the season. He got injured against the Titans. Now he came back and he was fine. And then obviously Tyron Smith was playing hurt and playing at right tackle, not playing that well. So praying to the football gods for no injuries and good health, because if these guys can stay healthy for at least 12 to 13 games, and then the major part, right, heading into the playoffs, this offensive line is more than good enough to get it done, y'all, in my opinion. More than good enough to get it done. And that would do it for today's morning roundup. Let's get back to y'all and see what you guys got here in the chat. What's good, y'all? What's good? Toxic says, Sky, it's amazing that unlike Garrett, when we lose people, Mike has his team ready. The power of a real NFL coach. Absolutely. And there were some coaching rankings, which I try to stay away from these rankings as much as possible. Off season, though, I guess it's fun, whatever. That, you know, I've been seeing Mike McCarthy ranked so low, and it's just mind-boggling. Context. You know, context matters. It's what I started this channel on, and actually not this specific one, because this is like the second channel. But it's what I started this run on, is that context matters. In the big media and these other outlets, they leave it out. How do you look at the context of what Mike McCarthy has dealt with here in Dallas and say he's the 26th best head coach in the league? How do you do that? How do you look at his resume in Green Bay and you can say, well, he had Aaron Rodgers. People are forgetting Aaron Rodgers was on the bench. Aaron Rodgers was being developed by a Mike McCarthy. And did it take long for him to surpass Mike? No. But Mike McCarthy helped in Aaron Rodgers' development. That goes down. Cooper Rush, probably the league's 40th best quarterback, 50th best quarterback in the league, whatever, right? He comes in, goes 5-1 as a starter. McCarthy gets no credit for that. McCarthy gets no credit for keeping this organization, with the Joneses hanging over top of him, afloat, where he had to deal with a Kellen Moore. Gets no credit for that. Context doesn't matter when it comes to this team. People don't care. And, when it comes to these rankings, they throw it completely out, which is why I kind of ignore them as best I can. But I just thought it was very interesting that, McCarthy is somewhere in the 20s as a head coach. Look, you don't have to put him in your top 5 or whatever, but there's no way you can tell me there's 20-something better head coaches in this league. Stop it. Just stop it. Marv said you can say that about most coaches. They had so and so. Yeah, I mean, sure, you should put context on everyone, right? But when you add context to a Mike McCarthy and his resume, there's no way he's a 20-something. He has a Super Bowl. He's been to 4 or 5 NFC championship games. He's done something in Dallas that no head coach has done since 1996. Back-to-back double-digit win seasons. That alone. I like Brian Daboll. Don't get me wrong. I like Brian. How the hell was Brian Daboll a top 7 head coach after one season as a head coach? That's wild to me. Wow. Nonetheless, it is what it is. Shout out to my bro in the building, Vosh Lombardi, man. Yes, sir. Look, next week, we are back live on the Vosh Lombardi live show. Your boy Sky and Vosh will be teaming back up. And then the following week, we should be down in training camp. I'm so excited for that, man. Already getting that ready. Everything moving for that. All right. I do too, Lee. Lee said he hates rankings. I do too. And that's why you don't really see me do a bunch of rankings, except I might do a roster ranking a little bit later. So. It depends. We'll see how the content goes. We'll see how the content goes. Let's change the subject here. Let's turn the page here. We just looked at a bunch of contracts for Tony Pollard, Terence Steele. There was also another contract that came down over the wire over the weekend. And shout out to, I call him Voch's son, Quinton Williams. We talk about getting the bag and we're talking about defensive tackles today, right? Quinton Williams became the latest defensive tackle to sign a mega contract this offseason, says Adam Schefter. And here are the contracts here. Quinton got 4 years, 96. Jeffrey Simmons got 4 years, 94. Deron Payne, 4 years, 90. Dexter Lawrence, 4 years, 90. Javon Hargrave, 4 years, 84. And then Ella Oliver, I believe, got 4 years and 84 as well. You're starting to see the value of interior defenders go up, Cowboys Nation. Be it pass rush or run stoppers, whatever. These guys hold value. And when we got Dan Quinn here, that was something that I thought Dan Quinn would see trending in the league and implement here in Dallas. And he tried. Now, again, you're going to need to win the trust of this front office to allow Dan Quinn to kind of take more chances than the team has done in the past. That's why you saw them say, yeah, okay, Dan, we'll give you a little breathing room. Draft a 6th round defensive tackle, big guy. We'll give you a little bit of breathing room. Sign a veteran guy, the big, not big country, but the first big country we had, the tall. I can't remember his name. He played for the Bears. He played for the Ravens. Then Dan Quinn started gaining their trust, and once he gained their trust, the Cowboys finally did something they hadn't done since Russell Maryland, and that was draft a defensive tackle in the 1st round. That's important. When you look around the league, there are 18 defensive tackles making at least $50 million or more on their contracts. Only 3 of them were drafted outside of the 1st or 2nd round. Javon Hargrave, DJ Reader, Draymond Jones. 18 DTs are making $50 million or more, only 3 drafted outside the 1st or 2nd round. It harkens back to what I was talking about heading into draft season. When the Mozzie Smith conversation brought up, I would say, hell yeah, I would love to have Mozzie Smith. And if I don't give a damn at 26 or the second round, but you got to take the chance on a guy like this early, because if you want one of those type of defensive tackles, 9 times out of 10, you've got to get them early. You can't wait around to round 5, 6, 7 and expect to get that type of production from those guys. You might get a rotational guy. You might get a role player, and that's fine. But if you want a difference maker like that, it has to come early. Another reason why you had to get a guy like Mozzie Smith, in my opinion. Last year, the Cowboys allowed opposing running backs to gain 3 or more yards before contact on 25% of carries. That ranked 21st in the league. See, we can look at yards per game. We can look at yards per carry. You know, yards per carry to me hold a little bit more weight than yards per game. But yards per carry and yards per game. But when you look at yards before contact, to me, that tells me that you're not winning the line of scrimmage. 3 yards or more before somebody is touched is crazy. Ranked 21st in the NFL. Now, obviously, it's no secret the Cowboys got better when they got a Jonathan Hankins. That ranking increased because he is a true run-stopping nose tackle. But Hankins is more of a stopgap type of dude, right? He's not a long-term solution. Yes, they re-signed Hankins, and we'll get to that here in a second. But he's not a long-term solution, which is why you had to give him some help. And that's why you go out and you get a Mozzie Smith. I'll say this, and I'll say this clearly. If you want to be one of them ones, you have to be forceful in stopping the run. Hear me when I say this. Well, Sky, under Rod Marinelli, the Cowboys were top 5 a couple times in yards per game and whatnot against the ground. Nah. Fool's gold. Let me tell you why it's fool's gold. During Jason Garrett era, this team was much more of a control offense, play keep away, North Carolina 4 corners basketball style of defense. It wasn't about being forceful and stopping the run. In fact, Rod Marinelli could care less about bringing in guys that actually stopped the run. He wanted you to stop the run on the way to the passer. It was more about play keep away. If you look at the history of this league, most of the dominant defenses force you to stop the run. They force you to throw the ball. They put you in tough situations because you can't get past their bigs up front. So you're in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, or what have you. The Cowboys' problem over the last number of years, even with leading the league in turnovers, leading the league as a pass rush defense or whatever, is that when teams wanted to run, majority of them could do it. Enter a Jonathan Hankins, it got a bit better here. And maybe that is what gave this team the confidence to go get a Mozzie Smith. So the importance of this unit is extremely real. And I think the tweak that they're going to make could be the reason why this team, I think, becomes elite. This defense becomes elite, or potentially one of them ones, because they are stacked on the corners. We reviewed that. They're stacked back there at safety, right? They're stacked on the defense ends. You don't necessarily need to be crazy stacked at linebacker. You just got to have guys that got talent, speed, that complements your defense well. I think they have that, but that unit needs this unit, defensive tackles, to play their best ball. Coach Floyd, who just got signed on to the Cowboys to be the assistant defensive line coach, he sat down. He spoke with the draft team, right? And we played this audio before, but let's listen to it one more time on the tweak that is going to be made up front that I think will help everybody, honestly, on this defense. This is Coach Floyd talking about disrupting keys.
This year, we're really going to focus on disrupting our keys, knocking back that guy as opposed to looking in the backfield. I think by doing so, we'll give the linebackers a chance to play in their gaps as opposed to always trying to fight to get in their gap on a down, So it's most definitely important, and we're going to definitely fix those things and play harder in those areas this year to make the defense better.
I thought this was one of the biggest nuggets to come out of all those coaches sitting down. I don't even know if coach was supposed to say any of this, but this was such an important nugget to come out because if you guys remember, we talked about this team doing a lot of stunts. We talked about this team playing a lot of peek and shed, and you heard him talk about that. Instead of peeking in the backfield, looking in the backfield, I want you to disrupt that man in front of you so that my linebackers can fill this gap a lot easier. I think that tweak is going to help everyone across that defensive line, especially the LVEs of the world behind them who need these defensive tackles to help keep these guys clean. And I think there's a misconception. Keeping guys clean isn't just being a big, sloppy, 360-pound dude who just sits there at the line of scrimmage and just takes on double teams. No, you have to be disruptive. You have to disrupt that guard, and Vach is in the building. You have to disrupt that guard from getting to that next level. You have to disrupt that guard from maybe coming down on a combo block where he's 1-2 on a defensive tackle and getting up to the linebacker at the second level, and now we're getting a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-yard gain. And that's where guys like Mozzie and Hankins being here early on can help those. And not just those dudes, because I think it's going to help guys like Osa as well as we get ready to head into breaking down all of these defensive tackles. But I wanted to kind of set the stage to the importance of having defensive tackles, good defensive tackles, and having that mirror what you want to do schematically. Little by little, Dan Quinn is starting to implement that. It wasn't going to be easy. He had to get the trust of this front office, and he finally did, in my opinion. Now he finally has the guys that he needs to take this defense to the next level. And yes, I think it can go to the next level. Vach in the chat, quote, sometimes you just need to disrupt the timing of the combo. Indeed. And I think Coach Floyd and those boys will start teaching them that. Little technique things, man. Little things like that can make a big difference. All right, before we get into the individual players, let's hit the phone lines real quick. We'll get a call or two in. We got Reek on the horn. We ain't heard from Reek in a minute, man. What's good, man?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, Scott? How you doing, man? What's going on, Cowboy Nation?
I'm doing good.
How you doing today?
Ain't heard from you in a long time, Reek. How your summer going?
It's going all right. Everything cool, man. Everything good.
Sound good.
Yeah, man. I want to jump right into this right quick, man. My thing is with the defensive line is that I think that they should be looking for people like the players that's been here for a minute, like Bohanna. I forgot the other guy's name. We're looking for some of these other guys that's been here 3 years too to step up too, because we're going to need them deeper into the season, especially when the playoffs start, stuff like that. I'm looking for a lot of the third-year guys that's been at the defensive tackle to take that jump. You know what I mean? Like Odighizuwas and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And really, like I've been saying this for a minute, sometimes I think they should tweak Odighizuwa. Sometimes I feel like he should be on the inside, but sometimes I should feel like he should rotate to the outside too, because they do a lot of stunts and twists and stuff like that. And that's what they like they line to do a lot. But as far as run stopping, you got to give me Mazza. You got to give me not so much Bohanna, but I'm looking for him to step up too. The other big guy that we brought back, Hankins. Yeah. I'm looking for us to be a little bit more vicious than we was last year, and I understand that the culture of our team, the defense has been getting a lot dirtier, like far as like nitty gritty, and we been stepping up because that San Francisco game, it really showed me something about this defense. Like we got a Super Bowl type of defense. You know what I mean? We just need everybody to be on the same.
Don't ignore the Tampa.
Yeah, and especially Tampa. That was a hurdle. That was one of the hurdles that we needed to get over. As far as with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I looked at it as a big win.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because they've been smoking our boots pause for like the last couple years, and we got over that. And we beat Tom Brady.
There, I was just about to say.
Look,
you can say what you want to say about Tom. You can say what you want to say about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One thing you can't say is that wasn't Tom Brady out there. You know what I mean? How many people, how many pundits, how many fans were nervous going into that game because they were playing against Tom Brady? A lot. And they made Tom Brady retire. Let's just be honest. So I got to give them credit.
Yeah, we the last ones that put an L on his resume, right. And I like that. You know what I mean? I like that a lot, and I really believe that was a part of what made the defense stand up in San Francisco, because that was a hostile game in hostile territory. If you got a defense that can travel, you're a dangerous team. We just didn't have the offense to help carry the defense over the hump in that game, and we still almost did. But we're gonna take our lashings, but we coming back for more. And like you said, as far as this defensive line, I really love. You had to sell me on the Mozzie pick, because you're the first one that said it to me about the Mozzie pick in the draft, and I really believe that we're gonna do something big this year. You know what I mean? And I'm just so excited. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna get up off here and let somebody else in here. But good to talk to you, Scott. What up, Voch? All right, Cowboy Nation. I get with all y'all.
All right, man. Good talk, Rick. Appreciate you. All right, let's jump straight into it. Let's talk about this defensive tackle unit, okay? If we're talking about guys that have the most pressure or the warmest seat, hottest seat, whatever the hell you want to call it, in that room, I think you got to start with Neville Gallimore. You have to start with Neville. And I root for Neville. I rooted for him hard. His second year, I thought he would have a breakout. Ended up hurting his arm. That affected him. He came back late. Had a good outing in 2021, his first game back, and then kind of tailed off a bit. But cool, we can give him a mulligan for that because he was coming off an injury. But in his third year, it seemed like he took a step back. Now, statistically, his numbers were better. He played more snaps last year. He played 402 snaps, just about the same as he did in his rookie season. Had 33 tackles, a couple tackles for loss, and 11 stops. So statistically, he took a slight jump at the defensive tackle position from a production standpoint. But when you actually watch him, right, it just never felt like at any point in time, except for maybe in that Washington game, he made much of a difference and kind of just felt like he was out there. And for a rotational guy, for a guy who's going to be your fourth or fifth defensive tackle, fine. But Neville was supposed to be your starting 3 tech, believe it or not. But I think he's turning into Tristan. And what I mean by that is, when Tristan Hill got here, it was the last year of Rod Marinelli. Rod Marinelli comes in, drafts Tristan Hill. We get a different defensive coordinator. And all of a sudden, Cowboys just start bringing in 3 tech after 3 tech after 3 tech. They drafted a couple more, and Tristan just kind of got bumped down out of flavor. He did not have a sponsor. Neville Gallimore comes in. They draft Osa Odigizua. They move Chauncey Golston inside. They draft Mozzie Smith. I'm like, oof. Now, let's ignore Mozzie. Let's just talk about drafting Osa, moving Golston inside. Hey, Neville, you better have a good 2022 offseason. What happens? Quinton Bohanna beat him out. And we'll get to Bo in a second. Neville Gallimore actually was worse than Bo and Tristan Hill, in my opinion, at camp. To the tune that the coaches said, hey, big fella, we're going to sit you down. Okay? To the tune that Bohanna started the season off as a starter. To the tune where Neville Gallimore was still out there with the 4th string in the last preseason game. Oof. And it did not carry over well into the season. Neville kind of was very up and down for the most part, in my opinion, down. And we're looking for a bounce back season for Neville Gallimore. Now, do I think they'll carry 6 defensive tackles? I don't know, man. I don't know. If they do, then that shows you that, they're obviously valuing this defense a little bit more, and they want the most depth as possible. But Neville's seat is 100% warm. And I'm going to tell you another reason why I think it's warm. Every last one of these guys, you can definitely see them have a definite role up front. Tell me Neville's. Is he a pure 3 tech? I don't think so. I don't think he has the quickness of an Odigizua or a Golston or even the technique to be that pure 3. Is he a pure 1? Absolutely not. He's not a 1. Is he a tweener? Yeah, he's been a bit of a tweener. But that can get you in a bit of trouble if you don't stand out as a tweener. So Neville's got to have a really good preseason and training camp to stay on this team, in my opinion. In fact, he's going to have the preseason and training camp that Quinton Bohanna had last year. Yes, sir. Quinton Bohanna, and a lot of people, and I shouldn't say a lot, there are a handful of people that don't like Q. Let me just say this, and I got Vach in the chat. Bo looked legit last year at camp. Bo looked legit in preseason, and he also started off the season looking legit. I'm not just saying that. There was times me and Vach looking at each other like, hey, dog, is we sure Bohanna 340? Because he moving out there. And are we sure Bohanna's one tech? Because he's doing some 3 tech things. Very shocked at what Bohanna was doing in camp, and then it translated into the preseason and it carried over to the regular season. As I stated, he beat guys like Neville and Tristan out last year, and rightfully so. Y'all know how I feel about I don't want things handed to any of these cats. I want the competition to dictate who gets on that field if there is some depth competition there. He rightfully so beat those dudes out. And when you look at the start of the season, it translated. It absolutely translated. He had 10 of his 19 tackles, 4 of his 9 stops in the first 5 or 6 weeks. You saw some of that quickness that you were like, how? What, 350? They got him listed at 360. I don't think he's 360. But if you pop on a tape of Bo in the first 5 to 6 games prior to, him dealing with the shoulder and knee injuries, you saw a guy that took that second year jump. You absolutely saw that. Now, he did finish out the season playing 13 games, but I don't ever think he really was all that healthy. He started to play with the brace on his knee, and to the tune that he didn't become active in the playoffs. You don't like to see your draft picks not be active in the playoffs. But if he can remain healthy, I think we're talking about Bo being fine depth as a nose tackle guy, truly. And this is where the numbers game is going to come into play. Will the Cowboys elect to carry 3 bigs like Bo, Mozzie, and Hankins, or will they say we only need 2? I'd rather keep some more 3 techs. I think that's unless they go full 6 or 7 guys up front. I don't see it happening, but we'll see, because we got a lot of edge rushers that got to get on this team. But I think there is value in having 330, 40 plus pound dudes on a team that is now going to tweak their responsibilities up front. A team that needs to start focusing on the run game a little bit more because they got the talent on the back end to be able to focus more on the run. And if I had to guess here, I'm just guessing. I think Bo might have took on a bit more responsibility in his first 2 seasons in the league than anticipated. If you guys remember, and let me bring you back here. If you guys remember when he was drafted, Dan Quinn came out here and said, oh, Bohanna, we're going to put him right here. Here's the center, right here. Sometimes he'll be right here. But if you go watch him over the first 2 years, you had a bunch of injuries to guys. And then you saw him kind of develop more quickness last year. And they were doing more shaded things where he was playing some 3 tech stuff, doing some 3 tech things. Now, he didn't do a lot of stunting. But if he is focused on purely disrupting his keys in front of that center, I think that plays into more of what he does. And he takes on that responsibility. When he got drafted, he said one of the things he prides himself on is helping the linebackers behind him. So is Bo going to supplant a Mozzie or Hankins? Absolutely not. But in a defense that is focusing more on stopping the run, I think Bohanna could have a role as a depth guy. I don't think he's going to get you 25 snaps anymore. But if injuries happen, he could be a dude that helps out as a pure nose tackle. So I'm not ready to write Bo off just yet. I think he's a guy that could find a place on this team. I think he can. Well, Danny said he lost too much weight. I mean, he's still 340 pounds. If you go look at him in his rookie season, even when he came into rookie camp, I kind of was looking at him like, we sure he's 340, 350 or whatever it was, because he carries that very, very well. And again, if you go watch the film in the first 4 weeks, he was playing some solid ball, man. But then the knee injury piled up, the shoulder injury piled up, and you kind of saw him take a step back a bit. But you're going to need him to stay healthy. If Bo can stay healthy, I think he can carve out a role. 100%. 100%. Let's get D Schiff on the horn. What's good, D?
Hey, what's goody, bro?
What's up with you?
Man, appreciate you this morning, man. I like the trench talk from you in your bag this morning, Sky.
Trying, bro.
But man, I think defensive tackles, that's a great. I think it's been good, like how the Cowboys have kind of been putting like little investments here and there, and then they finally put a first round pick. Listening to Mozzie, I don't know if you got to listen to him talk with Boston.
It's coming up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing I just want to throw out is I like his confidence. I just kind of listening to one little key piece where you're talking about him being a depth piece. It doesn't sound like he's really satisfied with just coming in and smoothing in as just a depth piece. I think he, in my mind, wants to come in and like really contribute. And he used a lot of things like I owe this franchise and things like that. So I'm excited about that. And I think grading some of these guys, looking forward to it. I like their matchup against a lot of the interior offensive linemen against the people that we played this year. Not a lot of teams with just like real good interiors. So I think they're going to be able to take care of some matchups. So, man, appreciate the talk this morning, bro, and I'll sit back and listen.
Salute. Appreciate you, D. That's D Schiff, y'all. Speaking of those matchups, I'm kind of working on the next competition style of a show like we did before. Top 5 pass offenses. That could be one, right? Like top 5 offensive lines. I might look into something like that. I was going to do rushing attacks, but that might be something I look into. But yeah, man, we'll get to Mozzie in a second. I definitely watched that fantastic interview, and I got a quote from it I want to talk about a little later. But I want to get back into kind of the depth guys, really. The depth guys of this rotation. We talked about Gallimore. We talked about Bo. This guy right here, though, Chauncey Golston, y'all. Chauncey Golston. If you guys remember the other week, we were just throwing stuff, spitballing, right? We were saying, what if a guy like Isaiah Land or Darrell Johnson or one of these dudes just go berserk? Who might be on the bubble? And somebody threw out Golston. I'm like, man, maybe it could be. But the more I sat back and thought about it, the more I came away with the conclusion that I think you got to have a guy like Chauncey Golston around in this type of defense, given that he has unique flexibility that differs from everyone else. This is a flex type of defense. So you got to have one of these kind of alien type of dudes at each level. You got a guy like J-Ron Kearse. J-Ron could do some linebacker things, play safety, right? At a pretty high level. You got Micah Parsons, who is just, one of the best in the league, period. And now when you look at Golston, I'm not saying Golston is on their level, but Golston at 6'5", now going about 290 or so, he has the length of a 5 tech, and he has the quickness for a 3 tech. And that's exactly what he did. He did a lot more defensive tackle things, but obviously can slide out and play on the edge as he did in his first year and as he did at Iowa. Now, you saw Golston's snaps get cut basically in half. And honestly, I don't think you're going to see them increase back over 400 snaps this year either. But when he did get a chance to play, 20 or so snaps, he performed fairly well, and he capped off the season in the last game of the year playing the best ball of his life, really. He had like 11 tackles in that game, a couple tackles for loss. In fact, not a couple tackles for loss, but like 7 stops in that game. But he doubled his stops from his rookie season in half of the snaps. So from a per snap basis, Golston still gave you something when he was out there. And I just think having a guy that has this type of flex on a flexible type of defense, I think you got to keep him around. Barring some type of terrible camp or terrible preseason, this is a guy that you should want to have as a depth piece, right? Think about it. If a D-Law goes down or Dorrance goes down, you know he can do some defensive end things to help stop the run. If an Osa goes down or hopefully not a Mozzie, but if somebody like that goes down, you know he can come in there and play some 3-tech things. The only concern I might have from a Golston is I don't know if he can give you that 110% effort on the inside playing 35, 40 snaps, right? Which none of these guys, they want him to play over 35 snaps. But let's say he has to give you a 5-game stint as a starter, where he has to play 30 to 35 snaps. Can he give you that same energy, that same production week in, week out? We don't know just yet because he's been a part-time player. And really that might be what he is. He might just be a role-playing part-time player. And for a third-round pick, you kind of want to see those guys develop as a starter, but they all won't. So can you develop yourself to the point where you can be a role player on this team? Chauncey has been that his first 2 years. He has. I don't really see his production rising. I think it's going to be tough barring injury. But I think he can give you something. I think if Chauncey is on this team as a rotational guy, he'll come in and he can give you something. Kind of where I'm at with Chauncey Golston. A tricky one, man. He's tricky to me. He's tricky because he's a tweener. He is what he is. He's a defensive tackle that can slide out to play more 5-tech. And he really didn't. His standout game happened at the end of the year. Now he had some standout moments, but his standout game happened against, in reality, a meaningless type of game. Now he got into the playoffs. He played a little bit, not a whole lot, and he did have some plays in there as well. So it is good to see a guy like Golston play in the playoffs where you need your best guy. So I think there's something to Chauncey Golston. He'll likely be a rotational guy, but you need those. You need those rotational guys. Towboat just dropped one in the super chat. If I missed one earlier, I'll get back to it.
Super chat.
He said, I'm excited for camp to see Tyler and Mozzie go at it. To be the man, you have to beat the man. Woo! End quote from Towboat Ty. Yeah, that's like Hawk versus Thanos. And I'm not talking about smart Hawk. I'm talking about, although Tyler Smith comes off as a very smart guy, but I'm talking about the Incredible Hawk versus Thanos. So, yeah. All right, one more before I get back to the phone lines, because I'm excited to talk about Hankins. Big Hank. Hankins love being a Cowboy, by the way. He got a podcast. I don't know if y'all seen his podcast. Hankins likes being a Cowboy. I don't know how long he'll be a Cowboy. Here you can see it here. He re-signed for a 1-year deal. But you saw the immediate impact of a Jonathan Hankins when he was signed to the Cowboys. His first game was against the Bears, and a lot of people, they